Hello, I'm going to introduce the most important piece of poetry of the 20th century, The Wasteland. It's the most important, most influential work by T.S. Eliot. It came out in 1922, the wondrous year of modernism and probably of world literature. It came out after the first collection, Prufrock and Other Observations, 1917, and the second collection, Poems, 1920. Look at the years, it's the same years in which Ezra Pound wrote The Moberly, for example, 1920. In 1922 came out this long poem made of 5 sections. Wasteland is a title that needs an explanation. A wasteland in Italian is La terra desolata, the translation. It was translated by Quasimodo, Premio Nobel Italiano. Or it's a piece of land left abandoned to waste, not used. It's an image, again, the key word, image of European society and world, of the modern world. The modern world is a corrupted world, inhabited by ghosts, with fragments, the key word that I've been using for a long time. We are left with fragments. Nothing remains of the ancient civilization, of culture, of the spirituality of human beings. We have become ghosts or machines. But this word was very new, even with considering Eliot's standards. Eliot had always been very, very revolutionary. But this is unexpected. The same years in which Ezra Pound was failing to produce a coherent work in the cantos. The cantos were going astray. But Eliot recognized the mastery of Pound, sent him a first draft of the poem, which he wrote where he was living, where he was in a sanatorium recovering from mental problems, a very dark period, even because of personal problems with his wife, who was going mad, and his job in the bank, which was deeply unsatisfactory. Pound cut away a lot of pieces in the poem, completely destroying what Eliot had tried to give, that is, some unity. Pound was saying very simply, if you want to present, to give us a piece of work representing the fragments of modern life, this work must be fragmentary. So don't use any narration, any narrative. Don't put away all the linking passages, all the explanations, anything that might give an idea of unity. Unity must be there, but on a superior level. Eliot had read 2 very important books, which I got here, by the way. The first was The Golden Bow, Il Ramo d'Oro, by Fraser, G.S. Fraser. came out in 1890 and then again until 1915, new versions. It's a very lengthy book, studying ancient myths of regeneration. That is the pagan rites, pagan religions, especially those, but not always those, not only those of the Mediterranean area. He studied the way in which ancient populations created their religion, starting from what they could see around them, the regeneration of nature each spring, when the dead bodies of the trees and the plants return alive. And here these populations drew their ideas of a god or gods who were killed and buried, sometimes destroyed in their bodies, buried and then rebirth. They were subjected to a rebirth. We can find them in many cultures, from Babylonia to Egypt, Isis, to Christianity, until the pagan rites that were surviving even in the Middle Ages. The second book was From Ritual to Romance by Jessie Western. Jessie Western was a student, a woman. From ritual, da rituale al romance, that is, the ancient writings of the Middle Ages, for example, the legends, the myths and legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. According to Jessie Western, there is a Christian meaning, a very deep meaning, going back to those rites that Fraser had studied. According to the legend, the surviving knights of the Round Table went on a pilgrimage looking for the Saint Graal. You know this from Indiana Jones, for example. And Parsifal found it because it was pure. So Jessie Western wrote a lot of books around these problems, how the Christian writers of the Middle Ages had taken up the ancient idea of myths of regeneration. So, as you can see, the two readings merged together, giving some hints, some substance to what was to be this poem. Modernism, with a lot of exceptions, Yeats is one of them, had refused the idea of the narration, first because it implies unifying ego, the I, io, the I of the writer who rules the world. This was a romantic or even classical idea. But in the modern world, you remember I said that the three unities, the three main parts of a literary or a cultural work or work of art had disappeared. They had undergone a crisis. The eye of the writer, unable to give a shape. I'll give you a couple of pieces, very short readings about this. The language, which proved to be ambiguous, and the external world, very problematic, impossible to understand. And I'll give you another very short reading about, for example, Gödel or Heisenberg, scientists, that the way that science was proving in these years the world is very, very difficult, more difficult. So each time you try to make it reality, to make it something understandable, something that might be represented by a narration, you are creating a fake. So some superior kind of unity was being looked for. One idea was music. Pound was obsessed by music. Eliot, as we can see, we will see in the four quartets. Basil Bunting, a miner who wrote sonatas. A sonata is a work, is a musical work made of generally 5 parts. Brahms and so on. So they were looking for a kind of external structure, but not a narration or a personal reflection upon the world, with the exception of William Butler Yeats, who spoke always in the first person, but Yeats is Yeats. That's one of the reasons why I think, personally, that he was the greatest ever. Another unity might have been given by the use of myth. That is, lots of images present in the poem, in their works, with an underlying structure given by some myths, ephiloge. Eliot tried to use both of these things in the wasteland. He delegated this word to Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound gave him the draft with all these corrections, which Eliot took up almost entirely. Then Pound complimented Eliot. He said something that I can't remember the exact word. In a postcard he said: "Complimenti vecchia battona, bitch, old bitch, sei riuscito dove io ho fallito." But Eliot recognized his debt. If I can show you the front page of the poem, recognized his debt in the opening page with a dedication which you can, oh no, my God, is the other way around. A Ezra Pound, il miglior fabbro. Sorry, I hadn't considered this. For Ezra Pound, il miglior fabbro. Il miglior fabbro is the way that Dante had called Arnaud Daniello, which he put in the Inferno. Arnaud Daniel was the miglior fabbro because he was not only simply a great inventor, but he was a great poet, but he was a great inventor. He invented an idea of poem. So Pound considered him his master. Dante considered him his master. And the same did Eliot for Pound, il miglior fabbro. But this dedication gives us another idea yet. That is, let's look back to Dante. Eliot is very intelligent. He had a very profound knowledge of literature, world literature, kind like all the modernists. And so he acknowledged his debt to Dante. Why? Because Dante is a master in presenting images, even when he's trying to give us abstract thinking. Think of the rose, the vision, the final vision of he gives us a vision at the end of the paradise. He cannot explain what he's saying, but he gives us a vision. That is an image. It's very concrete language, very solid language. And this is what Eliot, all the three modernists, were trying to do, to avoid, to eschew abstractions. The structure is very, very complicated in the wasteland. What we have is a group of fragments. Each section is made up of fragments. Each section has a center, but we have voices, people saying something. We don't usually know who's. It's not clear, even given the notes. Eliot wrote a few notes, but he was not interested in saying, this is Mr. B talking about... No, he didn't. So we have glimpses, flashes. It's very difficult. One of the difficulties of this work, is to understand who's talking to who. On what occasion, about what. Really, it's very, very difficult. So that's why we will choose only fragments, parts, and I'll be trying to give you a general view of the work, which is 20 pages. It's not so terribly long, but it is very difficult. It's the typical work that is given to students for their thesis, the final thesis, and everybody's trying to give some new interpretations, which is almost impossible. But I think with the exception of Dante and Hamlet, no other work of literature has been devoted so many pages of criticism, usually very, very brilliant. Every year, new books, new articles are coming out, giving explanations of almost sometimes very tiny pieces of the wasteland, which is terribly complicated. But you have when you have listened to the first videos, you can read on the book, and there is on the photocopies there is a very short summary, if you like, that give you the beginning. Then I'll be trying to help you with the passages I have chosen, which don't represent all these pages, too many pages, especially giving lessons like this. It's not so easy. So don't be worried, but follow the lessons, because no, you know all the reasons why you should. Okay, thank you very much. See you.